The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Whether she's walking the red carpet or doing interviews, you'll find her with celebrities and all the latest news. She's here, she's there, she's everywhere, she's always on the go. So sit back, relax, and get ready. This is the Corey Taylor Talks Show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corey Taylor Talks, live from Las Vegas, the #1 teen talk show. Before we get started on our show, real quick, I just want to say my thoughts and prayers and love are to all of the victims of the horrifying events that took place on Sunday night. It was just absolutely tragic, and I can't even begin to explain how horrifying it was. And I was born and raised here, so it is very affecting me. And thank God I don't know anyone that was personally a victim, but I have a lot of friends and stuff that are involved with some of the victims, so it's a very touching subject to me. So all my thoughts and prayers are with the people out there of the horrible Las Vegas shooting, the worst shooting in U.S. history. So, but in better notes, I want to talk about some really fun and interesting things and distract people a little bit from everything that's going on. And I've been very fascinated by this subject, and this woman is so cool, and I watched her film, and I think it is incredible, and I learned so much. So we have the one and only Patty Greer on. So hi, Patty, how are you?
Good. It's so wonderful to talk to an entirely new audience of fresh minds.
Oh, yeah, and you know, I have to say our audience is very open about everything, and that's what's really cool, and I've been very blessed with that, so we're excited to have you on.
Great. Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you. And I'm so delighted you watched the movie. That's going to make our show far more exciting because you understand basically the punchline.
Right. And we talked a little bit about this right before the show, but when I first started hearing, now I was younger when everything was going on, but when I first heard about crop circles and other beings or aliens or anything, I was always told that they were scary and evil, and I was very terrified about everything. But then when I started doing more research, I kind of learned they're like humans. There's amazing ones who are doing positive things, which is what you're focused on, and you've been lucky enough to be with. And then there's bad ones, of course, but we don't need to even talk about those kinds. But so you bring a very positive approach to this and showing how cool what they're doing and how they're communicating with us. And I was very excited about your film. So why don't you talk a little bit about it, because I think it's incredible.
Well, thank you so much, and you've made an excellent point. And, you know, to elaborate on that, if we look at the intention of Hollywood films, pretty much to scare humanity. Right. And if any of it were true, that those alien ships are going to come and shoot us and kill us and burn our cities down, I think we would have been gone a long time ago, and we are not. So I think that you made a beautiful point, because what I know is that crop circles are not scary alien anything. Right. The scary part is all the lying about it, and I think a lot of the UFO field is also that, because they really aren't scary, or we would have a lot more scared people that had experiences. And because I've been with a lot of UFO and ET experiencer humans, people that have actually seen things and had interactions, most of them that I've spoken with have been positive.
Yeah.
So I think that we've been really misinformed, and what a great way to start the show, because I think that a lot of ET interactions are actually very much for the benefit of humanity, especially crop circles. Yeah. So I want to invite your viewers to perhaps open up, if you're sitting at your computer, open up my website and look at the photos of crop circles while we talk about it. It's cropcirclefilms.com. And on pretty much any page at the bottom, there's 8 or 12 gorgeous crop circle photos to look at, and you'll be astounded because the photos, we're talking about art and math in a field of wheat or barley or corn or canola even. Now, you know how big a corn plant is, right?
Yes, yeah. And, honestly, I got to say I wasn't too aware, but when I saw in your film and stuff, I did a little more research, and they're huge.
Yeah, and canola is very much like corn. It's about an inch around, hollow tube like corn, and you can't bend it in a curve. If you try and gently, you'll definitely break it. And so when it comes to wheat and barley, that's easier to bend. It's more supple, but not when it's tan or brown because that's very brittle. So when you see a field of brown or tan wheat laid down in a crop circle, you have to keep in mind that it's really, really brittle by that time because it's dry. When it's green, it's, you can braid it if you want because it's so nice and fresh and young. So when we walk into a crop circle and we look at acres sometimes of laid down crop, we have to say, what laid it down and go look at it. So we get down on our knees, we start digging through, and if it's a human-made crop circle by people that had boards and ropes, which is basically a 3-foot-long wooden board, 2x4, 2x1, or 1x4, and 2 holes drilled, one on each end. They stick a rope through the hole, they tie it in a knot, and then they use it, they hold the ropes, and they step on the wheat, and then they lift up, and 3 feet forward, they step on it again, and that's how humans fake crop circles, but they're usually sloppy. They're not typically the gorgeous, exquisite, beautiful ones that I photograph or go in. And when humans do it, it's visible that every 3 feet there's a straight line of broken wheat. But when you go into a crop circle not made by humans, and you get down on your knees and you look, you see something atypical, something that's biophysically changed in the plant itself, whereas it stands up as a stalk of wheat or barley, whatever, and every 5-6 inches it has this little elbow called a node. Something hit that field with so much heat instantly that those nodes exploded into a bubble, or they stretched out into an elongated node, or they had so much steam that the bubble popped open and it left a burn mark. So what we have is visible biophysical evidence that this is a real crop circle.
Yeah. No, and that was it was crazy. And to be quite honest, I didn't know that they were just laid down and they still grow and stuff like that. It's not like they stopped growing or anything. So they're not broken off, and I never realized that actually until I watched your film, and I didn't know that they were still completely growing and everything. And that right there should tell you that it's a very hard thing to fake, just like you said, because that's insane. And they're gorgeous, huge, giant crop circles, and it's amazing. Right.
And not only do they have those bizarre changes, but you have to wonder what could have heated the wheat to blow those nodes out. And so the one thing that's different about my movies than anybody else is that I worked with the secret partner of the only scientist in the whole world that proved crop circles were real. 1950s, he started studying plants and seeds and soil, and in the 1980s and 90s, up until about 2013 when he passed away, he was completely mesmerized by the crop circles because they were showing something that he had never seen in his scientific career or in any scientific documents. So they had to look into what is causing these nodes to blow. And then, check this out, they found leaves that were covered in this thick, hard metal substance. and they peeled this substance away, and it had tracks of the leaf pattern in it, so you know it was liquid when it hit it and melted to the leaf, and it turned out it was iron oxide, which has to be 1,200 degrees to be molten. So how is it possible that there was molten iron ore traveling through the night in a wheat field, and it latched onto leaves and didn't burn the field down?
Yeah. Wow. And yes, Levengood, William Levengood, I didn't know about him as well, but he is an amazing scientist that done so much research, and like you said, he really proved that they're real, and really, I think, helped open a lot of people's eyes. And you worked with Penny Kelly, who, like you said, is his secret partner.
Right.
And why don't you tell the story of how you actually met with Penny and your actual personal interaction with Levengood, because that kind of gave me chills down my spine when I heard that.
You know, it's such a bizarre thing. It's almost like you got to see the beginning of Crop Circle Diaries.
Right.
You know, it's almost like I sound very woo-woo, but until I met Penny Kelly, who's written 23 books on telepathy, teleportation, being psychic, being intuitive, Kundalini rising. I mean, she's so brilliant working in the lab with Lefty. But she was secret. Nobody ever knew about her. And she drove across the state of Michigan once or twice a week to work with him for free in the lab because he found her. He found her through her book, Kundalini Rising, and what he was looking for was somebody who worked on more of a metaphysical level because he was a rock-solid scientist. And as soon as they met, they started working on this crop circle stuff, and it was the perfect combination of the two of them. But he couldn't get his work out because it was too important. Somehow, same thing as what I'm tolerating today, they're really trying to suppress this information. All you guys, you have to see Crop Circle Diaries. You can stream it. It's cheap. Just watch it. But this is so important because what we have is not some scary UFO thing. What we have is a physical earth science here that is going to help us bring our natural food supply back. The reason that William Levengood was so suppressed all those years was that he and Penny together proved that crop circle seeds were growing 30 to 400% more food and biofuel with up to 75% more nutrition, almost twice as much nutrition per plant. And they tested the seeds when conditions were too hot, too cold, too wet, and too dry, and they still survived. So what we have in crop circles, if they're treated in a particular way, like we learned in the lab, they're going to grow super seeds. And this is huge for our immediate future to bring the foods back, but also in places too hot and too cold. How I met Penny, oh my gosh. So Levengood could not get the work out. He just gave up. He died in 2013. He was old, and his wife had passed, and he was tired. So he just said, I can't do this, so he just left. And Penny went back and ran her B&B and, let this go. And off the wall, I was a speaker at the International UFO Congress Convention, and I had a standing ovation, and this woman comes up to me and she says, you have to speak at my event in Michigan. And I thought, oh, okay. And she offered me nice money and a flight out, so I said, sure, great. So I go out, I meet this strange man, and he says to me, I need to take you to meet someone. There's someone you need to meet. And I'm like, great, I'm in Michigan, like I'm going to get in a car with somebody I don't know. I don't think so. Right? So I asked about him the next day, and the following night I did go with him, and I meet this woman, and we're sitting around a table eating cherries for 4 hours. I go to leave, and she hands me her book. And I said, oh, and I spun through the pages, and I see crop circle nodes, and I said, what are crop circle nodes doing in your book? And she looks at the man who had graduated her intuition course, which I didn't, and she said, you didn't tell her who I was? And I'm standing there like, no, who are you? And I didn't read the front of the book. I just looked at the cover, opened it up, and spun the pages. And it said by Penny Kelly and William Levengood. And she said, I was Lefty's real partner for the last 16 years of his life.
Wow.
Now I'd been there 4 hours. Oh, my God. So I was pretty stumped, and it was just like, God, now I have to leave. This is horrible. So she says, come back in a month for the wake for William Levengood. I would love to. So we had a date a month down the road. Of course, I had to drive 1,500 miles each way, though. So the man takes me back to my hotel. It's like 2:30 in the morning. And I'm walking up to the front door, and there's a couple ladies there that were psychics at the event, and they're both nodding and giggling. And I said, hi, ladies, what's up? And she says, there's a tall man next to you. And I'm looking both ways, and I said, excuse me. And she said, silver hair, goatee, mustache. He has a message. Can I give it to you? And I'm like, okay. She said, he wants you to know that he orchestrated this, and he's really glad it worked.
Mm.
And I said, excuse me, hold on. And I turned around, and the man that dropped me off was just pulling out of the parking lot, and I chased him down. I'm jumping up and down, and luckily he looked in his rear view and backed up. And I'm panting, and I said, what did William Levengood look like that died a year ago? And he said, silver hair, silver goatee, tall, thin, why? I said, he's here. He orchestrated this, and he's really glad it worked. And the man just stared at me because he graduated the intuition course. And I'm going, I'm freaking out here. And he said, well, we expect these things, and he drives away. That's how I met William Levengood and Penny Kelly.
Wow. And that's very cool. And it makes you so happy and stuff, and it really does show that it was meant to be. And I think that's awesome that he had a...
Well, it's kind of like the beginning of the magic.
Right.
The whole thing was magic, the whole relationship. And so when I came back in a month, I was going to be there for 3 days. I stayed 3 weeks, hired a film crew on top of my camera, and helped to film Crop Circle Diaries. I had a headache every morning at coffee because I couldn't believe how different the explanation was than what I thought crop circles were. So let's talk about that.
Yes, you know what? You just actually took it right out of my mouth. I was going to kind of ask how you got into this and what your experience was and what brought you into crop circles and everything.
Well, mine was accidental, but nothing's an accident. I was trying to heal from mercury poisoning from silver fillings, and I couldn't get a doctor or any kind of healer to make much of a difference. And I had heard the crop circles had miraculous healing properties, and I just dropped everything and went over to England and started laying in crop circles in 2006. And the very first crop circle I went in, I could feel it before I got there. I wasn't even seeing a crop circle. I was just walking in a farm field. Somebody said, go 5 tram lines to the left and just keep on walking. And a tram line is where the tractor tires go to water their fields. So we're walking, and all of a sudden, I didn't see anything, but the hair went up on my arms. And I was stopped in my tracks like, whoa, just like I was hit with an enhanced electromagnetic field. And little teeny hairs on my arms, because I'm a girl, a lady, but my whole body felt like goosebumps head to toe. It was so tactile. It was so overwhelming that I turned around and looked at the people behind me, and they all had huge watermelon eyes nodding, going, yeah, I feel this. So 10 feet later, there it was. The field swirled down in just one movement. Glorious, beautiful, huge, probably 80 feet swirled down in a smooth, clean circle, and the field was just buzzy. Oh, it was so good, my first crop circle. And it was cold and rainy, and there was one other lady that we followed her in her car from Glastonbury. I didn't know who she was, but in the crop circle, we got to know each other, and we're still really good friends. Turns out she's the archdruidess of Stonehenge.
Oh, wow.
So it was her first crop circle and my first crop circle. So we were both completely alarmed by how physically radiant it is. I mean, you can't hardly not feel it unless you choose not to feel anything.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very real.
Oh, yeah. And, they're so cool. And they have a lot of them have very deep meanings behind them. And even recently in your documentary, you talked about how, because, it seems like they almost go through different series and stuff. And, the one time when they kept resembling birds and fish and animals and stuff, that's when the oil spill happened, and it was a huge oil spill and killed tons of wildlife and everything. And that just shows you right there, wow, and that was fascinating.
Right. Well, a lot of people don't realize that crop circles are not some alien woo-woo thing, and they're also not a bunch of guys with boards and ropes doing all the crop circles. What they figured out in the lab after studying the magnetics and how far it threw the wheat and how intense the bubble became, the node explosion or elongation, but they realized that the energies were stronger on the outside of the circle than in the center, which is where I was always drawn to lay down. So that surprised me. But they did find that there was definitely an enhanced electromagnetic field, and I personally, like I said, found that it had an even further umbrella that went out beyond the formation. So they realized ultimately that crop circles were coming out of the earth. They're not coming out of the sky.
Right.
And they found that some of us that have been able to, not me, but I have shared in my movies, these balls of light spinning slowly over a crop circle and the field, or a field of wheat, and the crop circle goes down in seconds. How does that happen? So Lefty, Levengood, and Penny Kelly realized and explained that this is their theory on how crop circles actually happen. What we have are two counter-rotating vortices, two little spinning tornadoes spinning in opposite directions of each other, counter-rotating vortices of spinning plasma fields. And plasma is the basis of all energy. And so when you spin the plasma, you're going to create a lot of heat and energy. So when they were trying to realize what are these plasma fields that are spinning to create the crop circles, they realized that they had a variety of different frequencies that had distinct boundary conditions. So they were trying to figure out what are all these distinct different frequencies. Some of them, of course, were Earth energies, like ion, electron, avalanche energies, like electromagnetic field energies, like coherence. They had all these different kinds of Earth energies, but they realized that almost every crop circle ever discovered has been sitting over an aquifer of water. So now we have to add water as an element to almost every crop circle, if not all. Crop circles are sitting over water. So these spinning plasma, little tornadoes, vortices, are coming through the water, out of the earth, through a big pool of water. So now we're spinning the intention of the mother, the earth, Gaia. She is the one sending these fields up initially, but it's not just the earth. And when I say she, the earth, yes, she's a living entity. She's a living being. And I don't mean some alien race inside the earth or anything of its kind. The earth is a living being. She grows trees, we grow hair. So the earth, I do believe, and so did Levengood and Penny Kelly after years of research and thousands of crop circle samples. Their theory, again, and I do believe it's true, is that they're coming out of the earth in these counter-rotating vortices, and now they've added water frequencies as well. And as the mother is spinning these vortices through the water, she's also sending the message out to all those tributaries of water. And it's spinning and shooting those frequencies, those earth energies into the water. So you were talking about that summer of 2009 when we had birds, fish, insects. I mean, it was the most exquisite summer. How about the dragonfly crop circle that had insane. The veins in the wings?
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Then there was a 1,500-foot-long octopus with tentacles. And you look at it and you think, oh, you know, interesting, but 1,500 feet? That thing was huge. Yeah. And then they had the hummingbird, the thunderbird, the rising phoenix with flames coming out the tail, crop circle. I mean, astounding. The dragonfly, the beetle. And like you said, what was the mother saying? What were the waters saying? They were saying, humans, wake up. Right. Other dimensionals, wake up. Help. They're going to blow up something in the ocean. And sure enough, the BP oil spill, like you said. I think that when the earth and the water give us these crop circles, sometimes we see crop circles where people claim, well, we were sitting in a circle meditating and asking for a confirmation, and bang, it shows up in a crop circle. Now, I have 8 movies, and in my 8 films, I have 3 different incidents where people had an experience, and the next day or the following day after, the crop circle showed up. One of them was me, and it knocked me over. And there were 2 phases of a response to me creating a crop circle. So I have no doubt. And even though this has been the most expensive thing I've ever done, hey, I got my own crop circle. So, you know, right. I feel like I can't complain. But what we have is these spinning plasma vortices, and now we know that if humans were asking for a crop circle and it showed up, then clearly their frequencies, their consciousness was one more layer spinning in that plasma field. Yeah. Now, occasionally we will see a crop circle of an orbit or a crop circle pointing in some direction. Mm. And, again, it's only my perception, but I would guess that now and then there's going to be a race of ETs flying over or other dimensionals passing by, and they're saying, hey, which way is, and the last directions to the Earth. It's like one planet to the other. Yo, what's up? And the planet throws down a crop circle, comes through the water, and everybody gets it. Oh, hey, they're going over there. And the humans flying over will get to see it, and we won't know exactly who asked and why. So now what we have is a co-communication between the Earth, the water, human consciousness, and all other dimensionals, which could be ET or wildlife or angels, whatever it is that are having a communication with the Earth. Yeah. It's very, very possible they're going to be able to create a crop circle and be one of those spinning layers of conscious plasma. So now what we've got is all of us can always make crop circles, but a lot of them are just the Earth and the water sending us messages. Very, very cool. And then we think of once the message is in the field, who gets it? Well, it sits there emblazoned in the Earth, so she gets to enjoy it for a long time. And it's already spun through the waters, so that's gone out to many, many waters. And then we see humans flying over in their little microlights, or they're driving by in the car and look down on the side of the highway, and there's a crop circle, and they pull over and take pictures, or they watch a movie, and there's all these crop circles. Or other dimensionals flying over the planet, and they see crop circles. Ah, look at that. Guess who's been here? Yeah. So here's this beautiful co-communication between all of us, too. All of us. This is not some UFO creepy, scary thing. This is something really incredible, really intentional. Many times, like you said, we can look at the photos or the images and say, wow, that said something to me.
Right.
And what I saw in the last crop circle of this summer, and I've never had a YouTube video have 40,000 hits in a few weeks, but I just hit 40,000 yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And it's me deciphering the last crop circle of the season. And it's so cute because a lot of people turn it on its side, on its head, and they see it that way, which is fine. We all see things differently. When I saw this thing, it says to me something that really makes sense for where we are as a species right now. I saw a telecommunication tower with these two orbs coming out the top, which is how telecommunication towers send their waves out. But on the bottom left base was a broken leg. It was just crumbled into bits. Otherwise, it's this flawless tower with all the different squares with different codes in them, but a crumbled leg. And to me, it was immediate. I said, broken communication.
Right.
And it exploded. But it's what I feel the Earth is saying and asking us, and that's why crop circles are so important for your audience, young people, to realize this is not some creepy, scary UFO thing. This is not some old guys with boards and ropes or teams of blokes with boards and ropes. These things are very real.
Yeah.
They make the hair stand up on your arms and tingles on the top of your head. The seeds are growing super seeds after they get hit with crop circle spinning plasma. This is so great for humanity. And what I'm trying to do is get this movie out across the world so that we can bring these machines to farmers and bring back our lost food supply. I feel so bad for your generation with this big lie that we're all gluten intolerant. No, you're GMO intolerant. This is not okay.
Right.
And this is not okay. And so I'm really hoping we're going to be able to bring back our organic food.
Absolutely. And I do want to talk to you more about that. And I also want to talk about your crop circle and your story, because that was just out of this world. And I also want to talk about the Oliver's Castle crop circle, and that's where we actually got the footage and everything. And I want to talk about all that, but if we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll come right back if that works for you. Hey everyone, I'm Corey Taylor from Corey Taylor Talks, and I really want to tell you about this new phone case that I've been using for just over a month now, and it's a shock-proof SIM case, and it's made by Yesco. And as you guys know, I'm always on the go, and unfortunately, I'm very hard on my phone, and I just got to tell you, this case has been amazing. I've dropped my phone, I hit my phone on things so many times, and this phone case has completely protected it 100%. As you can see, it's nice and slim and very sharp looking, so it's not big and bulky like other full coverage cases, and I just absolutely love it. By looking at it, you would never ever think it protects your phone as much as it does, but believe me, it's awesome. I gotta tell you, I have had a lot of phone cases throughout the years, and this one is truly the absolute best. I'm telling you, if you're smart, you will go out and buy one of these cases for your iPhone. They even already have a case for the iPhone 8, so for all you iPhone lovers, there you go. The prices are great, and the case is amazing, and the customer service is just out of this world. Once again, this case and a lot of other awesome products are from Yesco. That's YESGO. Go check them out now. You won't be sorry, I promise you. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Corey Taylor Talks, live from Las Vegas, the #1 teen talk show. Once again, we have Patty Greer on, and I am just in love with this conversation. It is so fascinating. So why don't we get right back into it, Patty? So I really want to talk about this because I think this is so cool. Your personal crop circle, as you mentioned a little bit, and how people have actually manifested crop circles and stuff like that with their thoughts and everything. But why don't we talk about your crop circle, because that is insane.
I know, right? And you saw the movie, which, that artwork was insane. Yeah. And I'm still really good friends with that artist. A lot of strange things happen in our lives, and we wonder how, why, and then a few years later it's like, oh, golly. And I'm kind of there now with the crop circles. It's like all these puzzle pieces are in place. My first experience with having another dimensional experience where I know that I left my body was in 2001. And then it happened again in 2007 when I went and laid in a crop circle. And both those times, I couldn't remember where I was taken. I just knew that something was different after those experiences. In 2001, I was completely clueless. It's too long of a story. But in 2007, I had mentioned that 2006 was the first time I'd ever gone in a crop circle, and I had, my daughter with me, and I had to behave like an appropriate person. So I came back the next year for, 9 weeks. And the year after, 2007 and 2008, I came back for 9 weeks by myself, and all I wanted to do was be in the crop circles. So I, at the end of 2007, felt like I had passed out. And when I woke up, my skin felt like it was burned, and I don't know how long I had been there. There was no one in the crop circle. I was all alone, and when I opened my eyes, I could see things that I had never, ever seen before. Yes, I'm on my back. I'm staring at the sky. But it was like I had a very different vision where it's almost like I became, like I had 3D vision. I could see plasma in the sky is what it was. They called it amoeba. I called it plasma. And I scribbled down some notes, and I drew sketches of them because I was like, I've never seen this before. And they were clear as a bell. But they were like see-through, opaque, but I could still see the borders like when you're scuba diving or snorkeling and you can see jellyfish that are clear. You can tell that there's a jellyfish there, but it's clear. Right. That's what I was seeing in the sky everywhere, and I had never seen it before. And my hearing was like precise, like I could hear a pin drop a mile away. And so I'm laying there on my back thinking, wow, my face is burned. How long have I been passed out? And why is my vision and hearing so intense? So it took me a few years to realize that I had been taken again. And I didn't know where I had been taken, but in 2012, I'm sorry, let me not go too quickly. Right after that experience in 2007, I started making movies. And within 2 years of that experience, I made 4 full feature films by myself that were UFO. Wow. And won a whole bunch of awards at the International UFO Congress. I didn't know a thing about filmmaking. I didn't know a thing about UFOs, ETs, crop circles, none of this. And it happened really quickly after that day. But it took me 4 years to have a regression, 3 years, I guess. In 2010, I was showing one of my movies in Glastonbury, and Mary Rodwell from Australia, who's done thousands of regressions on, maybe I should say hundreds of regressions, Barbara Lamb thousands. But she said, you need to do a regression because you clearly don't realize what happened to you. You were taken, and it didn't even cross my mind until 2010 that that's what had happened to me, why my vision, why I started making movies, why I was a completely different person, completely fearless. I did the craziest things, Corey. I mean, I flew in these little planes with no door on my side. Are you kidding me? Like year after year, plane after plane. I mean, wow. I would never do that tomorrow. But I sure did it then. Yeah. And rainy days, windy days, the pilot would look at, all these people at the airport waiting their turn, and he'd say, probably not a good day to fly, and so most people would leave, and he'd say, anybody's crazy enough to go out, I'll take them. So I'd always be the American that raised my hand like, I'll go. Come back kind of green and queasy, but boy, I got some great footage. Yeah. So, I learned in 2010 that I had a 3-hour regression. I learned that I had been taken to a place that looked like a crystal castle, and it was underwater, and I don't want to elaborate because it'll sound like I'm woo-woo crazy to your audience perhaps, but it was really detailed, and I remember, I can think of it now and see it with my eyes closed. But it was definitely underwater. It was a crystal castle. There were 5 pillars, and I remember the shape of the building. So that's great. I finally get it, and I'm like, yeah, well, who knows if that's true, but that's very interesting. And again, you know, it's not like I want to doubt, but it's a pretty out there thing for somebody to say, you were taken, and, you know, that description.
Of course.
But she didn't say it. I said it as I'm seeing it in my memory. So now a couple years later, I've got a lovely mountain house, lake down below and mountain peaks, and I invite a friend up to come and stay in the guest room. So that evening she said, oh, man, I found this artist. You're going to love his work. So she opens up her computer and shows me this beautiful, gorgeous colors like we're not used to seeing of this artist named Ariel Ali, ERIALALI. Probably the coolest art, oh my God, I've ever seen. Ariel Ali. And so I start looking through his images, just completely magical. I get to maybe the 3rd one, and there it is. It was at Arcturus City or something, and I started shaking and tears, and I'm totally spun out like, what is this place? Where's this place? Why is it familiar? And my friend's looking at me, and she said, you're really affected. And I said, yeah. Oh, my God. I saw this place. This is where they took me. This is what I saw in my regression with Mary Rodwell. And I was just completely goosebumps, chills, tingles on the top of my head like I was in a crop circle, completely, totally like an acupuncture point in the earth. In that moment, I just went, oh, my God, could this be? Who's this artist? Where is this place? I'm going to have to call him in the morning and talk to him. So it was very moving. And we went to sleep, and she goes off in the guest room, and I got up early and made coffee, and sitting there drinking my coffee and opened up my computer and got an email that there was a new crop circle in England that happened that night while I was sleeping. And so I popped the photos open, and bang, it was a crystal castle with 5 drips of water and 5 pillars and a star on top, just like the crystal castle that I saw in Ariel Ali's painting, just like the crystal castle that I saw in the regression. And all of a sudden I started shaking and crying, and I was messed up. I realized, oh, my God, 10:30 at night in Colorado is 3:30 in the morning, England. When I remembered was when that circle went down, because there's only 3 hours of darkness in England where crop circles happen. Although they do sometimes happen during the day. But this baby went down when I remembered, and when I saw it in the morning, I panicked. I was like, oh, my God, my memory created this crop circle. This was 2012 before I realized that human consciousness can be spun into the creation of a crop circle. So this took me, you know, it's like, yeah, try and make me an unbeliever. Not going to work. So here I am. If you guys want to see the Crystal Castle, again, my website, cropcirclefilms.com. It's either on the page called About Patty Greer or Crop Circles at the bottom. But the Crystal Castle, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. So I'm looking at this crop circle of a crystal castle with 5 lines that go below, and it's got 5 teardrops. Now that's water. It wasn't a circle, it was a teardrop. And now I'm thinking, wait a minute, there's no circle anywhere in this formation. So I went into the archives, and if you want to know some really cool archives, it's called cropcircleconnector.com. cropcircleconnector.com. That's where I'm a member, and you can go into archives of old crop circles for decades, and also all the new ones that turn up. So I go and look through the entire summer of 2012. There was, every crop circle had a circle, except the Crystal Castle.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, my God, this is an exception. This is totally my crop circle. Oh, people are going to think I'm crazy. I'm not telling anyone. Of course, now I'm telling your audience. But I was feeling like, oh, my God, people are going to think I'm crazy. But I swear, this crop circle happened because I remembered, and I work with the circle makers. What can I tell you? I've made them 8 movies. That's some hard work here.
Yeah.
So I've also won 8 awards, big ones. So the films are, you know, probably not lying. They're definitely telling the truth.
Did you ever get to visit
this has
that
all been
crop circle?
completely stunning. But I said to my friend, she comes downstairs, and I'm sitting there on my computer, the tears, the shaking again. She goes, oh, my God, are you still affected from last night? And I said, no. Look at the crop circle that happened while you and I were talking, or when I went to sleep. And she looked and she said, holy crap, that's the Crystal Castle. And look at those drops of water. Those aren't circles.
No.
That's water, just like you said. And I was like, mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, I think this is my crop circle, not one circle. The very next day, there was a huge circle on top of the Crystal Castle, probably 4 times the size of the castle.
Wow.
And inside it, do you remember what was in it?
Yeah, the bouquet.
A goddess.
Oh, that's right. No, I'm sorry. That's right. I was thinking the other one. That's right, the goddess.
It had a goddess inside it, and interestingly enough, that was phase 2. Phase 1 was a Crystal Castle. They made it for some girl who said, oh, my God, no circles. So they threw down a circle with a goddess inside it.
Just for you.
And interestingly enough, that's phase 2, but they did a phase 3, and they took 2 weeks to do it, where the goddess opened her arms.
Wow. Wow. So did you ever get to visit it?
2012, was I there? No.
Oh.
I wasn't there in 2012.
Gotcha.
I went 2006, 2007, 2008, 9 weeks each. I felt so, I don't want to say filmed by the government, but filmed by the government from a helicopter circling over me for 10 minutes, 20, that I chose not to come back in 2009. That actually bothered me. But in 2008, surprisingly, I filmed 3 movies and didn't even know it. Didn't even know it. So the coolest thing is that I've made 8 films, and unfortunately the first 4 that won a lot of awards and showed the Oliver's Castle footage that we're going to talk about got locked away by a company called Gaiam TV. And I'm really surprised they signed on for 10 years to distribute my films, but they put them in the freezer, and they've been very, they have not been nice. They took me out of their catalog, off their TV. They're hiding my films. I don't know why. And these are my exclusive distributors. 0 income for years from them. And 4 very important films. So it's not the way to talk to me. You don't just hide my stuff and be rude and nasty. So I made 4 more movies that nobody can touch.
Yeah.
And I've been dealing with a lot of hacking. I don't know who's doing it, but it's been really challenging. And the reason is that crop circles are really important, and that I'm the only one with the movies telling the truth about the seeds growing 30 to 400% more food and biofuel, which is hemp, which is biofuel, all different kinds. But imagine 400% more food per plant, with up to 75% more nutrition per seed. This is an incredible science. So they took this science into the lab, and they tried to figure out how to reproduce it. And they did figure it out. We do have a machine that will be able to bring the seeds back. And I think it's soon to hit the public, but we have everything we need to move forward as a species. And if we look at, in my opinion, Why is the news media hiding UFOs? Why are these distributors hiding my films? You know, what is this about that they don't want? Organic food, don't want. Free energy, 3D printers, water cars. My films are about new paradigm living, new technologies, and your generation are going to be the ones to bring it. You guys have the opportunity to just say, no more gas and oil, you old dinosaurs, and be serious about it, because we have 0 Point. I did a great movie. It's in 2 different DVDs. It's called The Shift Has Hit the Fan. And The Shift Has Hit the Fan features free energy devices, and it even shows a couple of 3D printers. One, a more eloquent one, but another one made by this hippie kid that went to a junkyard and trash cans and built a 3D printer that works.
Wow.
And so in this movie, you're going to see all kinds of what we need to be moving into, the next, sustainable communities, of course, organic food, of course, clean water, but really more about bringing these 0 Point vehicles. And I met a man, Ralph Ring, who's in his 80s now, who actually did, and I know it's true, recreate a spacecraft called the OTC X-1. And he and a couple of Nikola Tesla proteges walked into the ship one day after they had perfected it in front of 15 members, 13 of the press, 2 of GM, and these 3 men closed the door of the ship, sat in their seats, locked in, stared at the crystal, moved into the crystal consciousness, and that ship dissipated.
Wow.
And those 15 people standing there could hardly speak.
Yeah.
That ship dissipated into... 15 minutes later, it came back.
Oh, my gosh.
And the door opened, and Ralph, his 2 Tesla proteges, walked out of the ship, and the guys were just standing there, the news media, speechless. And Ralph said, darn, I guess it didn't work. And they said, what do you mean? Yes, it did work. Are you kidding? You were gone. And the Tesla guys reached in their pockets, and they said, what's this that I just found in my pockets? And it was these little stones that weren't in this area, but they were at their target 10 miles away. So they realized that they had gone to their destination. They didn't have a memory of it, but the ship was missing. So even though the military came and took Ralph's ship and all of his paperwork years ago, I think 1964, unless I'm wrong, might be, but I think that might have been it. I believe he's reproducing, and he called them pods, where people all over the world today are recreating the OTC X-1 spacecraft, which runs on 0 Point, which runs on free energy, which is the next, the new, the upcoming. It's so cool, your generation. We've got to get rid of these cell towers and dirty energy and dirty GMO food, and really be insisting on moving into these new technologies, because we have everything we need. We just have to say no to the old ways. Yeah. And crop circles are absolutely real. They're bringing us super seeds, and they are not some whack job fake UFO thing. They are a serious earth energy, earth, water, human consciousness sometimes, but not always. Other dimensionals sometimes, but not always. But always the earth, and always the water. Yeah, this is a real earth phenomenon, scientifically proven repeatedly in the lab of William Levengood and Penny Kelly for decades.
And unfortunately, we are literally at the last minutes of our show. But I would love to have you back on so we could talk more, because there's so much more to talk about, if that's okay with you one day.
Love to. Well, everybody go to the website, watch
please,
the movies,
cropcirclefilms.com.
cropcirclefilms.com.
Cropcirclesfilms with an S.com. And it has all the pictures of the crop circles, including the crystal crop circle, which is so cool. You have your own crop circle.
I know, right?
That's awesome.
I guess I did get paid.
That's true.
But the coolest thing is your show. And shows like yours. I've done 4 shows in the last couple weeks, and all of the hosts have really been higher dimensional hosts because you watched the movie. You know how real it is. Yeah. And that's what's going to change us, is when we start feeding our brains with the good stuff and leaving behind what we really shouldn't be putting in there that's misinformation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Patty. It was truly an honor, and I can't wait to have you back on because there is so much more to talk about. But truly, absolutely an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you guys so much for watching. And remember, never give up, always believe, and you will achieve. Thank you, and God bless.